Dorcas Care would like to know, how does one overcome stage fright? You're tuned to Diary of a Speaker podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Morore. And this question is going to be answered as we get going through the episode. At Diary of a Speaker, we have guests come and share with us their speaking journey and much more. We are going to hear from our guest today, who is known as Dave Albin. He's gonna be here shortly. But before he comes, let me remind you that if you'd like to always receive our podcast in your email, in your inbox, go to diaryofaSpeaker.com and subscribe, and you'll get every episode there and much more. And now, let's not take one more minute. Let's go and meet our guest today, our special guest today, to come and have a discussion with us about speaking. So here we go. Let's meet Dave. Hi, Dave. How are you?
What's up, Anthony? How are you, brother?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fantastic, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Yes, welcome to Diary of a Speaker.
Yeah, nice to be here.
Yeah. Now, let's get started. And before we do, maybe there's someone who's just tuned in right now and has no idea who is Dave. And
Dave?
Maybe you can introduce yourself as we get going.
Sure.
Yeah. Who is
Dave? So Dave Albin is the CEO of Firewalk Productions, Firewalk Adventures. And basically what we do, Anthony, is, I think you probably remember from another podcast we were on together, we create some of the most life-changing paradigm shift experiences by way of corporate team building. And one of the experiences that we create is pretty intense, and it's known as the Firewalk experience. Mm-hmm. And this is literally when people walk across hot coals. The experience has been around for over 1,000 years. Tony Robbins, who's very famous in the West, brought firewalking into his events some 3 decades ago. And I went to a Tony Robbins seminar in '95, and I did the Firewalk that night. And it was literally the most transformative experience I'd ever done. And nothing even came close to that. Mm-hmm. And so I became just obsessed. I was like, what? Wait, hold on. How can you walk on coals that are 1,000 degrees and not burn yourself? So I got involved with Tony's companies. I became a volunteer. Then I became a subcontractor. And I ended up working for Tony for just shy of 20 years. And long story short, in 2014, I got a call from Google. Then they reached out to me and wanted to know if I was the Dave Albin that did the Firewalks for Tony Robbins. And I'm like, yeah, what can I do for you? And they said, well, if you're not under any contractual obligation or non-compete, we'd like to talk to you about hiring you. Mm. And so that's when Firewalk Productions was born. And, you know, after Google, we did a couple of gigs for Google. Then we started doing a lot of gigs for big companies as well, NASA, Notre Dame, Chick-fil-A, Microsoft, Heineken, Y.M.C.A, just countless companies that we've gone out and created these experiences for.
Wow, that's wonderful. So I've always seen Tony Robbins, and I guess people who are watching you, our speakers, have also seen Tony Robbins and everything that he does. Yeah. And now you focus on the firewalking, and I guess that's not the only thing that you do once you have an event. Is it the only thing that you're focusing on, or what else happens during a firewalking?
So when somebody contacts me, Anthony, basically, they've got something going on, right? Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is maybe they're launching a product. Maybe there's dissension. Maybe they're trying to improve their culture. So whatever it is, when they get to me, I interview them and I find out what it is they're looking for. So we create the experience around whatever's going on with them in terms of, again, whatever that is. And then I create a keynote presentation about that. So we could incorporate, because I might do more than just the Firewalk. I might do a board break in addition to the Firewalk. A Firewalk may not be logistically possible. So we might do the glass walk, right? That's something that can be done indoors. We don't have to do it outdoors for weather, things like that. We have the aero break. So we have a lot of different experiences that are all based on the idea that what doesn't challenge you doesn't change you. Right. So, we get them out of their seat and we get them up on stage a lot of times, and they get up in front of all their peers, and we'll have them do the glass walk or the board break or whatever it is. And then again, we tie in that experience with the keynote presentation.
What does not challenge you does not change you.
No, it does not.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So for someone who, I know there is always that one person who's hearing that, or whatever it is that we say for the very first time. Uh, what's the concept? I mean, you talk about something that does not challenge you, does not change you, but what's the in thing? What's the actual meaning of walking on fire, and where did it start? How has it been growing? Yeah.
Been around a long time, Anthony. 1,000 years. It's been used by cultures all over the globe. You can see as far down in the Phoenicians, the Africans, the people of India, the Polynesians, the Hawaiians, the Native American Indians here in America, the people of Portugal, the Spaniards, the Indo-Europeans. For example, the Indo-Europeans. So when the warriors would have to go into battle, the women would build the firewalk the night before. They did it all. They cut the wood, they built the fire, they raked it out so the warriors could dance and walk on it. And it was an absolute must. And in fact, if the warriors didn't firewalk that night, they weren't allowed to go to battle, which was, you would dishonor your own family. And it's been used for mostly a rite of passage. It's very ceremonial. It's a very spiritual experience. And, it's hard to explain what that experience is like until you do it. But I can tell you, having firewalked thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people, I'm standing there and I'm looking at them, and I can see the look on their face, and they are scared to death, right? Because we're mammals. We're not supposed to walk on fire. We're supposed to run from fire, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that moment, like, I need to do this. Yeah, I'm scared. Okay, I get that. I'm going to be scared of a lot of things in life. So it's really about embracing fear and having fear. You use fear to your advantage. Because what does it mean? What does fear mean to someone? Well, it's all in the meaning. Does it mean forget everything and run? Or can you shift that where it says face everything and rise? Which is a very powerful acronym to give it, right? I've also heard it said false images appearing real. And when it comes to the firewalk, I think that's it. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? What, are you going to burn your feet off and die? No, of course you're not. Are you going to get hurt really bad? Nope. I've firewalked 500,000 people, Anthony, and no one's ever been hospitalized.
Don't they burn? Don't people burn?
Can you get a blister? Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, burn, like where they would need medical attention? Probably not. No. No. Because you're walking at a good pace.
Okay.
So your foot's not on the fire that long. It's only on there long enough to maybe get a little blister. And I tell you, if you get a blister, it's gone within a day.
Okay.
24 hours later, that blister's gone. And so again, it's all about making that decision to step through that fear. And here's the thing I know: the fears we don't overcome become our limits, and they will control your life. And I understand this. I say this all the time: fear's there to guide you. Just don't let it become your jailer.
Okay.
Right? Because if you do, it's going to take everything from you. It's going to lie to you. Fear's a liar. It'll tell you something's going to happen that's not going to happen. So it's a very, very powerful experience.
Wow. Now, tell us, what was your very first time on stage? Now, maybe it was not about specifically about firewalking. What was that first time that you ever stood on stage and spoke to people?
probably when I got to Alcoholics Anonymous. They put me,
how was that?
So that was I got sober in June of 1988.
Okay.
So that was, it was June 8th, as a matter of fact. So I just celebrated 36 years. And so once you get to AA, you have to speak before a group, right? You're in a circle of people and you're talking about your life and your alcoholism and what you're doing on a daily basis to stay sober and these kinds of things. And so you're learning to talk before a group. And, even to this day, having been in, thousands of meetings and talked thousands of times and stages all over the world, I still get a little knot in my gut. And that's a good thing. And I think that nervousness really comes from, you want to say the right thing. You want to say something that will inspire someone. You want to encourage someone, especially in AA, because in AA, those people that are coming through the door, their life's on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Alcoholism will kill you fast.
Yeah.
It'll destroy your life. So there's like a huge responsibility. I think in the preamble in AA, it says, when anyone anywhere reaches out, I want the hand of AA to be there. And for that, I'm responsible.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I heard that for the first time, I took that very, very seriously. So again, that nervousness is just because somebody's life is on the line. I remember when I got hired by Google, now I'd been on stage before, but when I was flying out there, I got almost a panic attack. I was nervous, man. I was scared to death. I'm like, what? Dude, do you realize you're going to Google? You're going to Mountain View. You're going to Google headquarters. Yes. Mm-hmm. You're going to stand on stage in front of 148 executives. And it was like, what makes you think you're good enough to do that? I mean, this is the stuff that's going on in my head, right?
Yeah. Where were you? What were you there to do? What was the event?
Yeah, they hired me to come in and speak to a graduating class of 148 executives, and then we also did the glass walk experience.
Okay.
So basically, I got on stage, I did the pre-note, I did the speech, and then we took them out into the parking lot and we did the glass walk. And then we brought them back in, and then I finished the presentation, after the glass walk. Mm-hmm. So, but again, it was so interesting that flying out there, I was having conflict in my head that, am I good enough? What makes me think that I can go to Google and speak to these executives? Mm. And so, when before I was going on stage, I was pretty nervous. And I think a lot of people, when they get on stage, especially musicians, right? They're the same way. We see them, they get on stage and they play beautifully and they sing beautifully. But when they're backstage, some of them are throwing up. They're so scared. You know what I mean? I've read where a lot of musicians, are they're sick to their stomach before they come on stage because of that nervousness. And again, I think that's okay. I think it's supposed to be like that, or otherwise we wouldn't go through it, right? To this day, when I have to go on stage, to this day, I still get a little bit of nervousness in my gut to go do the keynote presentation, and so and that's good. You know what I mean? Because I work through that. I have kind of a little ritual now. That and I learned it from Tony Robbins, actually. Okay. When Tony is backstage, and right, he's going to come on stage and he's going to talk to 20,000 people or 5,000. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. He goes through a routine. He has a rebounder, and he gets on that rebounder and he's jumping up and down. And when he's doing it, he's looking at his notes. Now, granted, when he gets out there, he's got a teleprompter, he's got stage notes, he has all that, but it's the prep. It's the whole idea. What am I going to say? What am I going to do when I get out there? So what Tony does is he prepares himself. He prepares his physiology, not so much what he's going to say or how he's going to say it, because he's done that for so long that he already knows that. That's already pre-programmed in his head. But he gets his body ready, kind of like a professional athlete, if that makes sense, right? You know what it's like. You've seen professional athletes. Right? If they're getting ready to go out onto the field, what are they doing? They're high-fiving and they're hitting each other in the helmets and and that's all physiology.
We used to call it the warm-up.
The warm up. Yeah, absolutely. That's the warm up.
Mm-hmm.
And they're preparing themselves to get their mind and their body to move together as a unit.
So it's not just getting into that place, that call before the audience and just standing up and speaking to them. You've got to prepare. You've got to warm up when you get in that room before you get in that room.
You want to get yourself in a peak state is what you're looking to achieve there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't want to go walking out there going, "Hey, how you doing?" They don't do that, right?
Yeah.
It's like you ever watch MMA fighting,
mm-hmm.
right? Look at them when they're going out there, man. They've and they're sweating and they prepared physically, in their locker room, getting ready, or in the green room, whatever. And then when they get out there, man, they are ready to go. Similar here. It's no different. When they pull the curtain and the mic goes live, are you ready? Right? So it's a big part of it. At least it has been for me.
And I also think that because now you talk about Tony having done it for years, so he's got that experience. He's done his research on some topics that he could bring in, which need some detailing. I think that even before you get in that room or in that back room, whatever the preparation, just before you speak, it takes a lot more in the days before, in preparing, in getting ready, getting very very acquainted with the subject or the audience, whatever it is. I mean, how do you figure out, how do you just go about being ready not to just freak out in the last minute?
That's my favorite part. And that is, I want to know who my audience is. I want to know the heartbeat of that company. I want to know what their values are. I want to know what their mission statement is. I want to know everything I can possibly learn about them, so that when I get on stage, the audience goes, "This guy knows our company. He knows us. He believes in us. He's part of us." And I think that's the key. You have to become them. You have to become part of their culture when you take that stage. In my humble opinion, you owe that to the client. And if you're not prepared, then it's going to show up. You think you're just going to walk out there on stage just because you think you're pretty good at presenting and not know anything about their culture or their mission statement or their vision or any of that. That's a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And you're not going to get invited back. I can tell you that. In fact, when I did my first Google, they invited us back the following year. And so they had 2 programs. So, we got to do both of them. So I was very, I was very honored to come back, and I did my research. I knew what I was going to say. I knew where I wanted to start. I knew where the middle was going to be, and I knew where my ending was going to be. Because that's one thing that I see a lot of speakers miss the bar on, and that's the end. You got to know you got to know how to say goodnight. You got to know how to say thank you for having me, and you got to know what to say at the end.
Wow.
And I say the same thing pretty much all the time. There's an Irish prayer, and I love it because it's so appropriate. And it's, may the roads rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the rain fall softly upon your fields, and may the sun shine warmly upon your face. And until we meet again, may God in this universe hold you gently in the palm of its hand. Wow. Thank you. Good night. Yay! Right?
Standing ovation.
And it has to be done. You have to be congruent with that. It's got to come from your heart. You got to mean that. You got to mean it. You just can't get up there and say something and word. I like to call it word wax. You just say whatever. No, you really, you have to be authentic. And if you're not, I'm going to tell you right now, that audience will see through you so fast, your head will spin. You'll never capture them. And the other thing that I think is extremely important as being any type of speaker, and that is you have to be willing to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
You have to be able to walk out there and tell those people, look, I screwed up a lot in my life. I made this mistake. I made that mistake. And because here's what I think, Anthony, people don't care how successful you are. They could care less. I don't care. You know what people care about, at least in my 3 decades of doing this?
Tell us.
And that is, they want to hear about your struggles and how you overcame them.
Wow.
That's valuable. They can use that because they're all going to struggle.
Everyone struggles.
Everybody struggles. And then they're like, you know, and when you can get up there and be vulnerable, because there's power in vulnerability, I can tell you, my brother, you know this already. And I hope your audience will learn this. Because the bottom line is, when you can get up there and you can, you know, tear off the scab, as I like to say it, and tell them who you are and what happened to you and these kinds of things, they go, hey, I can relate to this guy. You know, and they can, because he's being authentic. He's being real. He's not up here talking about his greatness or any of that. And I don't, because again, people don't want to hear that crap. They just don't. Again, I want to hear who you are. What are you about? What have you done? How did you get yourself out of the depths of, you know, the pain and suffering that you were in? Because we all go through it. You know, how did you deal with the death of a mother or father? How did you deal with the death of a child? How did you deal with the adversity? How did you deal with going through that horrible divorce? How did you deal with going through being a grossly addicted to drugs and alcohol? How did you go through losing everything and having to go bankrupt? Those are the vulnerabilities. Those are the stories. That's where the essence is. That's where life is. And so I think when you can do that and you can incorporate that into your keynote presentation or your talk, whatever, that's where people are going, wow, I really like Anthony, man. He was cool, man. You know, he got on stage and he let us see who he is in his soul. And to me, you know, being a great storyteller is a magnificent skill. Because think about it. Stories are everything.
Yes.
Look at Walt Disney. Yeah. Think he created an empire off doing what?
Just telling stories.
Total stories. Look at Jesus Christ. How did Jesus teach? In parables.
Parables.
Right?
Stories.
Yeah. Well, guess what? Success leaves clues. Tony Robbins. How do you think Tony Robbins became so successful? He told stories. How do you think Jim Rohn became so successful? He told stories.
Master storytellers. Yeah.
And so, by the way, I would add to that, there's some programs out there that you can go buy. You just go Google storytelling. And there's programs out there that you can buy that will help you with your storytelling process. And, you know, where to start, where to finish, all the middle, you know, where to go up, where to go down, your voice inflections, your tonalities. You know, it's not so much what you say, it's how you say it.
How you say it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like, you develop that voice.
Yeah. So, yeah, something I've loved up to that point is you have already answered in a way the question that I was asking in the beginning, which comes from Dorcas Care. How does one overcome stage fright? Yeah. I got the picture that, and this is what came into my mind, that if I am at home, I am with my parents, I am with my friend, I am with my mother, whoever it is that I am with, my relatives, I don't have that fear to speak. And this is where I'm driving at. Something that you mentioned about knowing where you are going, knowing the people that you're going to meet, knowing the company, getting to familiarize yourself with it, and also being vulnerable, being ready to just give it out there, tell it all about who you really are. Then if you're going in that perspective, with that mindset, then you may not be fearful. If you are not fearful at home speaking to your brothers and sisters, then just because you know them for a long time, then feel free to let the other people know you and also get to know them so that you don't mess somewhere in the middle. That's the perspective I get on this.
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, 100%. You got to have somewhat of a plan. Again, you got to have that starting point. Yeah. You got to know what you're going to say in the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, the other thing is I read years ago that one of the greatest actors of all time on Broadway was a man by the name of Yul Brynner.
Okay.
And he was in the play The King and I.
Okay.
And I read something absolutely fascinating about him. And even though, again, he was rated one of the best actors in Broadway history, is again when he appeared in The King and I for years. And what I read is that he practiced every single day. What?
Every
single day he practiced.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know this, right? We know if you want to be the best of the best in the world at something, how much time is it going to take? How much time do you have to put in to become an absolute master guitar player? 10,000 hours.
Yeah, they talk about 10,000 hours. Yeah.
10,000 hours. You do anything for 10,000 hours, you're going to be pretty damn good at it.
Yeah.
Now,
sure.
And so, and I just think that's such an example. Is he all in? Was Yul Brynner all in? And that's the other side of this. You want to be a public speaker? You got to be all in, and you got to be ready.
Just practicing every day. So I had this person who is a big speaker out there known, and he says, and there is not only one person anyway. I know many people who say that before I became a public speaker, I used to speak to trees and plants.
and the trees don't talk back. My poor dog. I feel sorry for my dog because he's my audience sometimes. I go out there and I talk to my dog. But it's right. Yeah. You go, just practice.
Just practice.
I don't care if you want to talk to a tree or a rock or a squirrel or a dog, just go practice. Oh. In fact, I have a big presentation coming up here in the next couple of months. Mm-hmm. And I've been practicing for that every day for about 3 weeks now.
Okay.
I do it every day. Now, I let me be candid here. I don't necessarily go through all of it.
Yeah.
From start to finish, because it's going to take an hour and 30 minutes every single day. Mm-hmm. But I do parts of it.
Okay.
Like I'll do the opening.
I also do that.
Yeah. I'll do the opening. Mm-hmm. Or I'll just go right to the middle and I'll do that. Or I'll get to the end. Because I think the ending is the most important part. Because that's where you have to tie it all in.
Yeah, because for example, the poem that you just told us, it just doesn't come by itself. You don't wake up and one day you're giving a poem just like one of the greatest poets that you've ever had. No, it comes through practice.
You can't get to the end and go. Uh-huh. You got to know. You know what I mean? It's like I love getting to the end. Because I love saying, may the roads rise to meet you, may the wind always be at your back, may the rain fall softly upon your fields, may the sun shine warmly upon your face, and until we meet again. Pause. May this universe and God hold you gently in the palm of your hand. Thank you. Good night. Boom. Right? It's got to come from here. And again, you've got to pause. Because it's okay to see, people don't realize that pausing is good. Mm-hmm. It just is. It's just you can get yourself in your composure, because when you're pausing, they don't know. They just know that you paused. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I'll even go like I'll move my hands to like. Right? In other words, I'm really looking to say the right thing. And they can see that in my hand gestures and my physiology. That I'm relaxed. Mm-hmm. I'm calm. I'm in the flow. I'm in my zone. And when you're in your zone and you can just we're here. Let's do this.
Let's do it.
Let me serve these people. If I go out there, public speaking, by the way, as some of your audience may know, it's rated the number one fear of everything. Yeah. It's over spiders and snakes, and fear of public speaking is the number one fear. And I've looked at that. I'm like, why is that? Why do we get such a nervousness? Why are we fearful? Are we fearful or are we nervous? Are we fearful or are we excited? Are we excited about maybe making a difference? Because once you kind of get to a point where you are driven to serve at a high level, mm-hmm. then that whole nervousness changes. You're not fearing of going out there and falling on your face. Mm-hmm. You have a really cool nervousness because it picks you up. It allows you to step into your zone of genius.
Yeah.
It allows you to, deliver at a high level.
Mm.
And that's a really, really cool place once you get to that spot. I love it. I enjoy it. I'll continue. I'm going to continue to do it, Anthony, as long as I have air in my lungs, and my focal point is to make sure that I'm adding value to these people's lives. I'm hoping to get on stage and say one thing that they will take away. Because here's what I can tell you: they'll forget your name.
Yes,
They'll forget what you said. But
they do.
here's what they won't forget. They'll never forget how you made them feel.
Sure.
And that's a sweet spot. And so again, it all ties in.
The feeling.
The feeling that you make them feel.
Feeling.
Like, hey, Dave got on stage and made me feel good about myself. And that's, and I get on stage and I talk about my alcoholism and my drug addiction and the tragedy surrounding all that on a regular basis. And here's why I do it. And I tell my audience, the reason I'm sharing that with you is because some of you out there, I can help you, because maybe you're not an alcoholic or a drug addict, but I'll guarantee you know somebody who is.
Yes, they
and
are.
Right? And you need support with that. What do you do? How do you deal with a loved one that's destroying their lives with alcohol and drugs? What are you going to do? Do you know what to say? Do you know what to do? Probably not. I do.
How do you go about it? How do you help them? How do you because I've met with people and they're just there. They're just lost in their own world, and you're feeling deep inside you. It's something that pains me when I meet with people whom I know could be having high potential and I see them getting wasted. How do you just get to that person and maybe help him make a turnaround?
Hey, I'm interested in talking to you when you're ready. If you want to piss your life away, I can't stop you. I'm not going to try. That's on you. The only thing I can tell you is there's another way. And I don't believe you were put on this planet for what you're doing now. I think deep down inside of you, you are screaming to get out and be of service to other human beings. Because here's what I know. If you help enough people get what they want in life, you'll always get what you want. It's a universal code.
Yeah.
And I think that is inside of you. I think it wants to become unleashed. And I think you want to step out of that and take ownership. There's a really good interview with Downey Jr.
Okay.
And Mel Gibson is standing like off to the side of the stage, and Downey Jr. is talking about when Mel gave him a chance. Downey Jr. was circling the drain. Alcohol and drugs were going to kill his ass. And he couldn't get a job. He had no money. He lost it all. And Mel gave him a chance. However, Mel gave him some conditions to it too. And he said, you've got to reach in and face those demons. You got to look them in the eyes. And I'll guarantee you this, it's not fun.
It's not always fun.
No, it's not fun at all. There's nothing fun about it. It's very releasing. It's very encouraging. Once you start to do it and you realize that you're stepping through all that suffering that you've put upon yourself and others, the good news is, that's why I love AA. The 12 steps show you how to put your life back together. You get to go back to all those people that you harmed, and you get to tell them that you're sorry. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to forgive you. Well, if let's say I did Anthony wrong, and I come back to him years later, and I say, and I just come up to you and I say, hey, Anthony, I just want to say, man, back in the day, a few years ago, I was drinking, I was drugging, I was destroying my life. It was wrong. I needed help. I needed a lot of help. And I know I did some things to you. I said some things to you, and I was wrong. It was mean. It was hurtful. And Anthony, I'm sorry. Hopefully someday you'll find it in your heart to forgive me. That's it.
That's it.
We're done. Shut up. You don't have to say anything else. Now it's on Anthony.
Yeah.
You did what you got rid of it. Okay. It was baggage. You offloaded it, And now it's on Anthony. Anthony might look at me and go, I don't care. I don't like you. You're a son of a bitch. Okay. And when I'm coaching people in AA when they go to make their amends, I tell them, look, they may scream at you, they may yell at you, they may call you names, whatever. That's on them.
Mm-hmm.
And remember something. Here's a really interesting distinction about it.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making amends, you're doing that for you.
You're doing it for you.
You're doing it for you.
Yeah.
If Anthony benefits from it, oh, well, that's great. That's awesome. That's just icing on the cake. That's just a little extra, wonder about the whole process. But you're really doing that for you.
Wow.
At the end of the day, that's why you're doing it.
Yeah. And so go dig your story. Go get back to the roots and just see the things that you can do. This is someone that could be going through that area, that experience, and get the help that is important, that is necessary for you to come out shining, so that you can always use this as your story. Stand up on stage someday and tell it and help someone out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Wow. This is so much that you've shared with us, and we really appreciate you coming to this episode.
Thanks, Anthony.
We are almost getting to the end of it, and we are asking people to go and become the heroes, the speaking hero that they are meant to be. And this comes from your story. This comes from understanding your subject. This comes from getting out there and practicing it and doing it over and over and over again for your 10,000 hours. And let's see the hero in you.
Well, as it says on my website, I know you know this, it says, stop looking for heroes and be one.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll close with this.
Yes.
Everybody has a story. And you're the architect. You get to make up that story. You get to create it. And I don't care what happens to you. It doesn't matter whether it's really, really good or it was really, really bad or something in between. You are the one that creates the story behind whatever happened to you. So if you create a story where you're the victim, you're going to struggle in life. Absolutely. All the way through. However, if you create a story around how you overcame it, then it really comes down to a divine purpose. The divine purpose will create a masterful story in and around you. Viktor Frankl taught us this, right? He's the man that wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really hard book.
Yeah.
Victor was in Auschwitz. And when he got there, they took everything, just like every other man or woman that went to the death camps with the Nazis.
Mm-hmm.
The bottom line is they took everything from you. You were naked. You didn't have clothes. You didn't have food. You had to stand out in the cold. Every second of your life, you didn't know if you were going to the chamber. You didn't know if you were going to go die a horrible, excruciating death.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you're listening to the screams from these people. So you can imagine. No, you can't, actually. What am I saying? You can't imagine at all what it's like to have that kind of fear running through your veins 24/7.
Mm.
But Victor figured something out. And what he figured out was, there's one thing you can't take from me. I have to let you take it. I have to relinquish it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my attitude. I'm not giving you my attitude. Because here's how he found divine purpose to tell the right story. And that is, someone has to get out of this place and tell the story of what happened.
Yeah.
Someone has to tell this story. So that became his divine purpose. And he did. And he got out.
He did it.
And the wisdom that came from that horrible, horrible, horrible situation, it's how it affected his brain. It took his brain to another level. And he was able to, between his heart and his brain, to create some of the greatest wisdom, knowledge, and ways to live your life that are absolutely incredible. So, just get up every day with the idea that if you want to be a speaker, then go out there and be a speaker and be a damn good one.
Wow. Go out there and be a speaker if that's your dream. Just be.
Yeah.
Just be.
Just be.
Yeah, just be. So, thank you once again for coming. And even before we go, someone could be thinking, hey, I need to connect with Dave in some way. How do they do that?
Oh, shoot. Wasn't expecting that. Our website, you can just go directly to our website. It's firewalkadventures.com.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's firewalkadventures.com. It's all one word, and everything's there on me. You know, my calendar's there. The academy that I run every year, all of our events, everything we do, it's all there, and I'm very accessible. And so if you're out there and you're struggling as a speaker, or you're struggling with something yourself as far as drugs or alcohol, or you've got somebody in your life that's causing that kind of challenge, then I'm here. Get a hold of me. Let's chat about it.
Well, yeah, go and do that. So, once again, firewalkadventures.com is the place to connect with Dave. Wow, wow, wow. That was good. That was great, Dave. We thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Yes. So now you can sign off in your usual way. Yeah, this is your time. Now, thank you everyone who's been here. We appreciate you. I've been your host, Anthony Morore, and together with the special guest today, Dave Albin. Uh, See you next time. Dave?
May the rose rise to meet you. May the wind always be at your back. May the sunshine on your face. And may this life enrich you beyond your wildest dreams. Thank you. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.